You know, no even sounds the same in Spanish. Yeah, it's still no. And we have a hard time saying no at the right times. And then we'll also look at the cost and benefit. There's a cost for following this way. Nothing good comes without sacrifice. Truly, folks, if all of us could look like Sister Simpson by eating donuts and McDonald's all day, we would do it. But looking good physically and looking good financially involves sacrifice. There is a cost to going this way. And for many, that cost, that behavior change of going the right way is similar to like children with a candy. You get on that sugar high and you don't want to give it up, but give it up you must. But since we're talking about candy, next slide, I'm going to deal with this one. Y'all remember that one? Y'all don't remember that? Oh man, that was the stuff when I was a kid. We used to trade now-laters when we were a kid, right? And you know, in New York, we didn't call them now and later. We called them now later. That's right, now laters. Because you have one and you save one. That's right. But as kids, we all ate them now. There was no later. But it's also true with our life. This one friend of mine told me this back in the 80s. She said, Lyndon, what you do to your body now, it's going to do to you later. Think about that. If you take care of your body now, it's going to take care of you later. Same with your money. What you do to your money now, it's going to do to you later. If you mess your money over now, promise, it's going to mess you over later. And if you take care of it now, it's going to take care of you later. So, where are you now? Do you see fantasy or do you see reality? What do you see? Admitting that you're financially obese, that is out of shape, it takes courage. Why? Because you're doing good. I mean, look at you. And mind you, I'm not talking to anyone specifically, but think about it. Look at you. You look like you're doing good. And then you have family and friends that come along and tell you, girl, you're doing good. You looking good. You smelling good. You got everything good. And they reinforce this business that you're doing good when financially you're struggling. You're suffering. Admitting that you're financially flabby, admitting that you're financially out of shape takes courage. You might be an engineer or a doctor or even a corporate executive, and you possess the outward image of being fit, like that fantasy. But all along you know that you're really flabby, that you've got some work to do. And flabby really is the enemy. Next slide. It's not being fat. It's being flabby. See, there's a difference between a phony and an enemy. Y'all get this. There's a difference between being a phony and being an enemy. So for instance, the virtue here for the first one is excellence. The phony is shabby. The enemy is mediocre. The virtue is enthusiasm. The phony is lethargy. That's really more like an opposite. But the enemy is middling. Get this next one. The virtue is love. The phony is hate. But the enemy of love is, we fear what we don't know. Huh? Is that not true? You walking down the street, you see some big burly black man coming at you and whatnot. He ain't your brother, he ain't your father, and he ain't your husband. What do? Oh, you clutch your purse, turn the other way, walk across the street, because you don't know. But if it was your brother or your husband or your son, you go with open arms. The enemy of love is not hate, it's fear. The enemy of best is not worst, it's okay. How many of us handle money okay instead of getting to excellence? How many of us handle our jobs okay instead of getting to excellence? How many of us handle ourselves okay instead of getting to excellence? Do you know how much struggle it is to go from being 5 pounds overweight to being exactly or even a little bit underweight? I mean, those of you that have gone on these fad diets that have lost 20 and 30 pounds, you feel great. I was 30 pounds overweight, and now you look and you're like, I'm doing good. But did you get to that target? Did you get to excellence? The enemy is not worst. It's okay. The enemy of fit is not fat. That's the opposite. That's the phony. The enemy is flab, getting rid of that extra 5 pounds, getting rid of that credit card debt that only has a $200 balance. Why isn't it zero? Can I tell a story? I hadn't been married yet. June had just finished at CUC down in Maryland. It's now Washington Adventist. And she was a nurse working at Jacobi Hospital in the Bronx. And June was making more money than me, even at that time. And at one time, she told me she had this credit card balance of about $800. And she had well over 5,000 sitting in the bank. And I said to her, why don't you pay this off? And what she said to me was, but then my bank balance will go down. Huh? Do we not do that sometimes? Because we like seeing a certain number, we don't want to take care of what it is we need to take care of? She is getting 4% at the time. This is like 1993. She's getting 4% in interest from the bank, but paying out 24% interest on that credit card. Folks, does that make sense? That's being financially flabby, not getting rid of things that we can get rid of because we want to hold on to something that makes us feel secure and comfy and warm. So now that we have an idea of what we are, let's look at where our money is and where it tends to go. I really am looking for answers here. For those of you that are still working, why do you work? Pay the bills. Why else do you work?
House.
To secure a future. Plan for retirement, plan for kids, grandkids, and so forth. Give me one more. Why do you work?
To get out the house.
There are other ways, better ways to get out the house, I promise you. For those of you that are retired, why did you work? Oh, that's a person who retired the right way. I submit to you all that you work or you did work at a minimum to place your money into 3 buckets. At a minimum, you worked to place your money into 3 buckets. We're going to call these buckets bucket number 1, bucket number 2, and why not? Let's be consistent. Bucket number 3. Bucket number 1. What do you think is in bucket number 1? I know. Bucket number 1 are things that are consumed. And they're things like you see up there, like food, gas, trips. Things that are consumed mean that there's nothing left over. It's not like you can eat grandma's apple pie and then there's something left over to give to someone else. At least what's left over, I don't think you want to give to someone else, right? I mean, it's coming out the other way, right? It's consumed. Vacations, gas, it's consumed. There's nothing left when you're done with it. That's bucket number one. Things that are consumed. What do you think is in bucket number two? Things that depreciate. Do you know what depreciate means? Correct. They go down in value over time. They lose value over time. Things that go down in value: clothing, cars, furniture, right? All of those things go down in value over time. And then, being that you found out bucket number one and bucket number two, by now I'm sure you can guess what bucket number three is. Things that go up in value, correct. Things that go up in value, like stocks, real estate most of the time, rare elements, life insurance, those things tend to go up in value. I've been saying a lot of scandalous things throughout the day, haven't I? Well, why not be an equal opportunity disser? I've got something else scandalous to say. When I was a young engineer, wherever Kim is, I was about 32 at the time, Kim. That was still young. It was. When I was a young engineer, I was working at GM, and a friend of mine came to me. He ran the Morgan Stanley office in Farmington Hills, Michigan. He came to me and he said, "Lyndon, listen." He said, "Lyndon, if you look at poor people, they show their wealth on their person. They show their wealth on their person. Rings, earrings, back in the 80s, even gold in the mouth. Y'all remember that? Yeah, latest fashion, the whole nine. And they might even have a little knot in their front pocket, right? But that's all their wealth, right on their person. If you look at middle-class people," he said, "they show their wealth in their leisure and in their homes." I mean, if you look at all of you, pretty much middle class, you look like everyone else. You don't look like you're terribly rich. You don't look like you're terribly poor. You look like right there in the middle. But where do you go for vacation? To the backyard? Antigua, Jamaica, California. You take trips to real nice places. And then if the church gets involved, we're going to the Holy Land. We're going on a European train vacation. Isn't that so? Huh? And then for those of you who are really bougie, your leisure is on the golf course. And then when we get into your homes, you have plush carpeting. Oh, yes. You step in that thing, your ankles begin to break because it's so deep and so lush. Hardwood flooring, right? Nice appointments for curtains and drapes. When people walk into your home, they feel as if they're walking into a welcomed place. That's where you show your wealth, in your leisure and in your homes. And then he said, if you look at rich people, they do everything under the sun to hide their wealth. Even from the government. They report to the government, "I'm poor. I only made $5 last year." When you go to see their home, you can't. Why? It's pushed far back from the road, surrounded by fences and trees and shrubs and even security guards. You can't see a rich person's home. And financially, you and I can't see it, but their friends can. Oh, yeah. They go to those $2,000 a person galas and so forth. That's right, those dinners. They get to go to meet all those big shots and those hobnobs because they're running in their circle. But among us, we won't see it. 3 buckets. Poor people spend an inordinate amount of their money in buckets 1 and 2. Folks, all of us have to participate in bucket 1, right? We gotta eat. Not so? All of us have to do something in bucket 1. Most of us can do something in bucket 2. We don't have to, but we can. I mean, really, we can truly go live in the wilderness. We don't need the furniture. We don't need the cars. But hey, God blessed us. We can participate in bucket number 2. But it's the truly affluent that participate in bucket number 3. God has given you money, his money no less, in your hands. How much of that are you contributing to bucket number 3? When money's in bucket number 3, good things can happen. Wonderful things begin to happen. Good things can happen in 1 and 2 also.
That unlike other types of debt,
we will get there in a second. We will get there in a second. Bucket number 3 is where a lot of wonderful things can happen. But unfortunately, many of us cannot get to bucket number 3 because there's that 4-letter word again. What did your mother tell you about using 4-letter words? Yeah, don't. And debt is a 4-letter word, folks. It shouldn't be in your vocabulary. And much of the time why we cannot be in bucket number 3 is because we are too consumed with debt. It is a scourge on us. And what's worse is we pass it on to our children. You know, the pastor talked about going to school. Thank God. The one thing I didn't hear him say, like me, I didn't hear him say, I went and I took out debt. He said he waited and trusted God, and the money came. But we saddle our children by encouraging them to go into debt. And student loan debt is one of the most egregious forms of debt that you can have in these here United States. The next video that's going to play is a very radical way of thinking about college. I want y'all not to focus on the venue that it took place in. I want you to focus on the information that's being shared. Again, please don't kill me for the venue. Focus on the information that is being spoken of at that venue. Roll the film.
and there are many that are concerned that unlike other types of debt, student loan debt does not have the same type of consumer protections. It cannot be wiped out in bankruptcy by law. There's really little way to refinance it. Are you worried about student loan debt becoming the next government bailout?
You know, this is a good place to talk about the scale of change we're about to live through. We're at the end of the welfare state era of dependency, debt, distortion, and dishonesty. The student loan program began when Lyndon Johnson announced it, I think, with a $15 million program. It's an absurdity. What does it do? It expands the ability of students to stay in college longer because they don't see the cost. It actually means they take fewer hours per semester on average. It takes longer for them to get to school. It allows them to tolerate tuitions going up absurdly. By 2014, there will be one administrator for every teacher on college campuses in the United States. Now, let me give you a contrast that's very startling. The College of the Ozarks is a work-study college. You cannot apply to it unless you need student aid, and they have no student aid. You have to work 20 hours a week during the year to pay tuition and books. You work 40 hours a week during the summer to pay for room and board. 92% of the students graduate owing no debt. The 8% who owe debt owe $5,000 because they bought a car. Now, that is a model so different, it will be culture shock for the students of America to learn we actually expect them to go to class, study, get out quickly, charge as little as possible, and emerge debt-free by doing the right things for 4 years.
Governor.
Culture shock to you, huh? When have we heard that message anywhere? What we hear time and again in the news, the president needs to wipe this out, or the Congress needs to wipe that out. What is that? Debt. Why aren't we hearing this news? Go to school. Charge as little as possible. Study hard. Get out and get a job. We don't hear this. We hear go into more debt because your education is an investment. All too often for them to finish with that investment and now look to someone else to save them from that four-letter word. Yeah, that's being repurposed as investment. Really radical. I challenge all of you who have children of this age, even from now, encourage them to not take out debt. I spoke to this one gentleman. Now, mind you, he makes a good income, very good income. He's a surgeon. He's in his mid-30s. And he came to me after he had finished schooling and said that he wanted to get a house. So, of course, I'm asking him about, his income and his debts and so forth. Folks, I kid you not, I'm not making this stuff up. When I graduated, I had $15,500 worth of debt. And in 1988, to me, that was a lot. This guy got out of school 2 years ago, 2020. Listen to this number, $750,000. That's like a nice small little brownstone somewhere here in Brooklyn. $750,000. But there's hope, because there's a way that you can actually get that debt paid off. For this guy, if him and I work together properly, we will have that debt paid off in less than 5 years. And for whatever debt you have, and we'll get to it in a couple of slides, you can, just about any of your debts, you can get rid of in 2 years or less. Absolutely wipe them out. We need to stop burdening our children, and for those of you that do have, our grandchildren, with this notion of needing to get into debt in order to get ahead through education. I think I beat that one to death also. Let's move on to the next. Insurance. Insurance. Remember we talked about bucket number 1, things that are consumed, and also bucket number 3, things that appreciate. Insurance is one of those quasi things that fits into like both buckets. But under normal circumstances, insurance is something that actually can appreciate in value. What do I mean? If you think about it, now granted, something terrible typically has to happen, yes, but let's just sweep that aside for a second. If you think about it, if Lyndon went and took out a $500,000 life insurance policy, right? And I have to pay, let's say, $50 a month, okay? If I paid one $50 payment and then I get hit by a bus, do you know what June is getting? $500,000. $50 turned into $500,000 because of one unfortunate, but it's going to happen event. Whether it's by a bus, or whether it's by food, or whether it's by disease, unless Jesus comes again, all of us will meet that day. And insurance is an excellent way to protect against that day. It is unfortunate that too many of us had parents that lived by the OJ's anthem. Papa was a rolling stone, well, well, wherever he laid his hat. Y'all remember that, no? And when he died, what happened? That's it. That's it. We endeavor to live by that song, that we leave our loved ones nothing but alone. Insurance is a way to protect against that eventuality. It's gonna happen. I don't know, my youngest aunt, she says about herself, my youngest aunt says, listen, I just turned another birthday and I want to be alive. I want to stay alive. I don't want to die. I'm going to stay alive. And don't we all? But Tantieri knows, she's not the youngest, Tantieri knows Unless Jesus comes, all of us, we have that date. I'm encouraging you, if you do not have proper provisions for your loved ones, and there's two major reasons why any of us would need insurance, typically two. One is if we have dependents, right? Someone that needs to be continually subsisting if we're no longer in the picture. We need to provide for our dependents. And those dependents, not necessarily children. It could be parents also, right? Some of us are taking care of our parents. Or it could be a relative. My mother right now is taking care of one of her nephews. If someone is dependent upon you, that is the number one reason for having insurance. The other is if you want to leave a legacy. What do I mean? Several of you here are ushers. Maybe through that ministry you have been able to touch many people. And perhaps on your passing, you want to set aside enough funds so that ushers can be trained, so they can have uniforms, so that they can be something that provides for ushering to continue in your name. That's called a legacy. It could be done with pathfinders. It could be done with cancer or diabetes research. You want to leave a legacy. You want to leave something by which others benefit after you're gone. That's the other reason for insurance. When you have these people come through your churches and come through your home trying to sell you insurance because it's a savings tool, I'm going to encourage you to push that aside. In fact, I'll encourage you better. Call me and let me look it over for you before you sign on that dotted line. Because quite often, people that come to your home to push insurance, it's not for your benefit. It is for their benefit. I had one gal down in Alabama that had 6 life insurance policies. I'm like, what is, and her son was grown. What is that? Because someone came and told her, you need insurance. So again, 2 reasons that you need insurance. If you have dependents or if you want to leave a legacy. And it is almost derelict if you have debts that you die without providing some way for your heirs to pay for those debts. That's insurance. Now, the next slide talks about 3 different types of insurance. There's life insurance, and I am actually recommending that you have at least these 3. You want to have at least life insurance. I mean, some Adventists think that, life insurance is not something because you're trying to profit on death or because we're supposed to live because Jesus is coming soon. And listen, you go to this site here and you'll find information that life insurance is okay. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Disability. Do you know what disability insurance is? Who doesn't know what disability insurance is? Good. I'll skip past that. And then the last is umbrella insurance. Now, seriously, how many of you know what umbrella insurance is? Yeah. Oh, he works in insurance. Umbrella insurance is just like an umbrella. When you pop up an umbrella, where does it go? That's right. It goes over your head, and it goes everywhere that you go. Your home insurance, it stays at home. Stays on the home and the possessions of the home. Your car insurance, on the car. Your umbrella insurance goes everywhere where you go. Why is umbrella insurance a thing that you should consider? Because we live in a litigious society. That's a long word that means somebody's probably going to sue you. We live in a society where somebody is likely to sue you. You get into a car accident. See, now I'm going to tell about myself. So back in 1990, I had an outing with Joe Marshall, and we went to Macy's in Midtown Manhattan. And I drove my mother's car. And I mean, yeah, I grew up in New York, but I really thought that you could park somewhere in Midtown without having to pay. I really thought that. I'm not even trying to get over. So I did. I parked around the corner from Macy's, went into Macy's with Joe Marshall. We looked around, did this, did that, came back out, car wasn't there. I'm going out of my mind. I called 911, a car stolen. They were like, where were you parked? I told them, said, check the impound uptown. Called the impound uptown. Sure enough, the car was there. And I'm livid. How dare they take my car? I go in there, because I still had the key. I go in there and I get into the car and proceed to drive out of the impound. And there were about 4 security guards. Oh. And I'm like, what? It's like, back it up, buddy, back it up. And I'm still mad. So I put the car in reverse and I started backing up. And as I did, one of the security guards was coming around back. And as soon as I saw her, I stopped and she jumped like that. And I just knew I did not touch this woman. Until 3 months later, when I got a letter from the lawyer saying, we're suing you for $1.2 million. Yeah. Suing for $1.2 million. I really don't think I touched the girl. But that goes to the notion of we live in a litigious society. Umbrella insurance helps protect you. My lawyer said they have to do that. They got to put some real ridiculous number, because if they don't and the person that they're representing decides to challenge them, they can actually sue the lawyer for misrepresentation because they didn't set a high enough number. So he said they got to make it some ridiculous number. They'll eventually settle for maybe 20, 30,000. So just so that you know. And I don't know what happened because the insurance company took care of it. But my point in all of this is an umbrella insurance policy helps protect you against the eventuality that someone indeed tries to sue you to take away your home or to take away your car. If you have an umbrella insurance policy, and let's say that somebody did a slip and fall in front of your property, instead of them saying, hand over the keys, I now own your property, you can show them, or their lawyer really, the umbrella policy, which typically starts at $1 million. And if they see a policy at that level, they will leave everything else alone, and they will go after that policy, unless they really just hate your guts, which is unlikely. So that's why I recommend, and it's cheap, by the way. What do I mean by cheap? Typically, regardless of your age, you can get an umbrella policy of $1 million for about $200 to $300 a year. That's about $20 to $30 a month, folks. Just for the security that if somebody does a slip and fall, or if they do get touched up in a car accident, that you don't have to worry about them taking all of your life savings and your home and your car and so forth. Is that understood? Estate planning. We as blacks, yes, I said that. We as blacks hate this thing. It really is almost like saying a 4-letter word. And do you know why most of us hate this business of estate planning? Because we get this some weird rationing that if we talk about death, we're going to die. So the news flash is, you are going to die. You are. You might as well have a plan in place. There are typically 4 elements. Next one. There are typically 4 elements to a rock-solid estate plan. The first 2 that you are well aware of are a will and a trust. A will and a trust are not the same things. A will is your direction as to what happens to your possessions after you die. And everyone has a will. Governor Hochul has a will for you. If you don't have one, she has one for you. It's called dying intestate. When you die without a will, it's called dying intestate. And when that happens, there is a trouble tree that the state has set up that determines how your assets will be passed on to the next generation. But you don't want Governor Hochul telling how. Well, I don't know about you. I don't want someone else telling how my assets need to be passed on to the next generation. So you want to have a will to at least take care of that piece of it. A trust goes into talking about how monies and possessions can be delivered now and after you pass, and in a certain timing, if you so desire. So for instance, God has blessed you mightily. Yes, he has. And now you have $1 million in the bank, but your next living heir is only 20 years old. Now, $1 million in a 20-year-old's hand, that's dangerous, huh? Oh, y'all don't agree with that? That is crazy dangerous. So what a trust does, it says that I want Johnny to get this $1 million, but not all at once. You can give Johnny $20,000 to get through his first year of college or second year of college. And then if he gets married by 28, give him another $60,000. And if he's fully employed by the time he's 32, give him another $200,000. You see how I'm saying? You can set it up so that Johnny gets what you decide that he should get as he matures, as he gets more and more sound in his experiences and in his life. That's what a trust affords you to do. And a trust can also help for those who can't help themselves. Some of those are called special needs trust, where you have a child or a grandchild that can't really provide for themselves, but you don't want them to be only at the mercy of the state. So Medicaid, as you know, will take care of many of the special needs adults and so forth. But if you set up your own special needs trust, that person can actually do things like take vacations or get special distributions for their own benefit without the government saying, nah, we can't give you any more because you got too much money. So you want a trust to talk about how to distribute the assets now, as well as what to do and who to do it to in the future. That's what a trust does. And then you also have a healthcare proxy or a living will, two different things. A healthcare proxy says that if you cannot communicate your healthcare decisions, you have given that power over to someone else to do for you. Folks, the last thing you want is to be on some life support machine and the kids are fighting over what to do. You don't want that. That's not a pretty scenario. But if you designated one person as the one who's going to make those decisions, you get rid of that fight. A living will is something that talks about truly the final end. It's really telling the hospital and the doctors what to do when you're at that place where, the cord is going to be cut. And again, you don't want families standing around a bed, rolling dice or playing rock, paper, scissors as to whether we should pull the plug or not. Your living will take that decision out of their hands because you don't want all that you've worked for, all that you've saved for. Well, I don't know if you don't want, but I don't want all that I've worked for and all that I saved for trying to keep me alive. I want that to go to my kids and my grandkids. So instead of them making that decision, I will have directions in place that makes that decision for everybody. You don't have to, but if you don't want confusion, that is one of the elements that you want to include in your estate plan. And then the last one is the power of attorney. A power of attorney is only good while you are alive. Keep that in mind. A power of attorney says that someone can act on your behalf only while you're alive. Once you pass away, the powers of attorney pass away with you. And this you want, again, if you're in a position where you cannot communicate or you just don't want to. I mean, seriously, how many of us, when we're in our 80s and 90s, want to sit there and think about paying bills? We just want to play, bridge or spades or, go on a vacation. We really don't want to handle all of that stuff. So we turn that over to someone who can take care of that for us, someone we trust. That's what a power of attorney does. Now let's look at this other thing, savings and investments. Go to the next one, and you're going to have to hit enter as I tell you. The first one we're going to talk about is stocks. Many of you have heard about stocks in Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Apple, and so forth. Those are stocks that are traded. And stocks represent the single most efficient method of building wealth. Let me say that again slowly. Stocks represent the single most efficient way of building wealth. Why do I say that? Well, with real estate, you got to come up with a hefty down payment, or you got to come up with a hefty down payment if you want to buy that real estate. And if you come up with a small down payment, you still have a large debt, a mortgage. And then over time, you pay down the mortgage, you build up the equity, you're building wealth. But that's time and it's money. It's not a bad deal, but it's time and it's money. And if you think about, gold. Gold sometimes does this, sometimes it does that, sometimes it does this. And just to get 1 ounce, you still got to spend about $1,500 for 1 ounce. And then it takes time for that gold to do something. But stocks, I can put, truly, as some people did, this does not work for everything, but by and large, this is how it works. I can put $50. I got to think every one of us in here can come up with $50. I can put $50 into a stock and come back even in 3 months, and that stock is now $75 or $100. Or come back in 3 years, and that $50 is now $1,000 or $3,000. Tesla, that's exactly what happened if you put $50 in Tesla. 3 years later, think about if you put $1,000 in Tesla. You came back in 3 years with well over $12,000. And you did no work. All you did was put $1,000 there, and you walked away. It is the single most efficient way of building wealth, is stocks. But it's not the only way. There's another one, as many of you know, called bonds. And then, of course, there's currency. There's what, 20 Jamaican dollars for every 1 US dollar or something like that there. You can trade currency back and forth and make money, right? And then there's the next one. Yeah, see, now that's the bonds I was talking about. That's a bond is a loan to an entity. If it's a U.S. government bond, you are loaning money to the U.S. government, and they are promising to pay you back with interest. That's what a bond is. You could do that with a corporation, you could do that with a municipality, and you can do that with a government. A bond is a loan that you make to someone, and they promise to pay you back with interest. And then, of course, you have, next, real estate. We talked about real estate. You all know about real estate. Next, gold. You know what gold is? It's always been around. It's always going to be around. So I won't spend time on gold. Next. Next. There we go. Oil. Many of us don't know a thing about oil, but you can invest in oil. You just got to move out of New York because there's really no oil fields here. You got to go to Nebraska or Texas or Florida or some of these other states, but you're not going to get into it over here, at least not heavy crude oil. Next. ETFs. ETFs are just like what you've invested in your 401ks and 403bs, except they're more efficient and they have lower cost. And you can ask me questions about that later. There's mutual funds. That's exactly what's in your 401ks, your TDAs, your TSPs, and so forth, are mutual funds. Next. Now we're getting into the exotic stuff. Bitcoin. Well, that's the Bitcoin symbol, but cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a digital form of currency. Folks, the world is going crypto. The Federal Reserve is even trying to establish their own digital currency. And I'll talk more about this in a second. And then, of course, NFTs. You know what NFTs are? Yeah. See, this is why, again, we remain poor. These are vehicles for making money, and by and large, we don't know about these things. NFT means non-fungible tokens. You can think of it essentially as digital art. Think about it, folks. The Mona Lisa. Pull up the next slide, hit the enter button. Mona Lisa, that's art. That's regular art that you know about, right? Now tell me something. Is that a good, I don't mean excellent or perfect, but is that a good representation of the Mona Lisa? You can't tell that's the Mona Lisa? But I'm saying, does it look like the Mona Lisa? Yeah, right? If I took a lithograph, you know what a lithograph is? It's essentially a laser image of something. If I took a lithograph of the original Mona Lisa, folks, would it look like the Mona Lisa? How much would that lithograph be worth? A couple of dollars, right? How much is the original worth? Millions, right? That's what NFTs are. NFTs are a digital form of art where there is only one original. And if you own that one original, it's like you owning the Mona Lisa. You have the original. And people today are paying thousands, tens of thousands of dollars for the original of various content. So if you, for instance, had the very first commercial that Michael Jordan and Spike Lee, the very first commercial that they did together and so forth, if you actually own that, you can then sell that as an NFT. You got to get it digitized first so that the signature is there to show that it's the original. But once that's done, you now have an original form of digital art. And you can sell that. And it doesn't have to be relegated to the rich and famous. It could be anything that you own that you think is of value. If you digitize it, certify that it's original, that's what NFTs are. And it's something you need to pay attention to. Now, here's my offering to you. With what our government and our central bank is doing, they are greatly reducing the value of the dollar. You know, someone said earlier today that, you know, the economy is going to be set up for a huge collapse and so forth. Yeah, that's by and large true. The Bible says so. But apart from the Bible, just look at what the government and the Federal Reserve are doing. They are printing money. Do you know who else printed money like it was going out of style? 1930s Germany. It cost $1 million to get, 1 million German marks, sorry, to get one loaf of bread back in the 1930s because they kept printing money. People would go cash their paychecks as soon as they got it because they didn't know if it would still be worth what it was printed on the check. That's what inflation is. You all heard the reports about inflation running at the highest in 40 years and so forth? When inflation goes up, that means the value of your money goes down. And one of the ways you do that is by printing more money, by putting more money in the system. Think about it this way. If you had a little bit of, let's say you had a little bit of apples, 5 apples, and 40 people wanted to get those apples, what do you think is going to happen to the price of those apples? Why? That's right. A lot of people want a little bit of stuff, right? Now, what if you had 40 apples and only 2 people wanted to buy it? The price will go down. And that's what's happening when you print money. You're putting a big supply of money out there. And if you don't have the corresponding demand, you will get the value of that dollar going down. Or the flip side is you'll get the cost of buying goods going up. And if the cost of goods go up, it's the same as the value of that dollar going down. So when you hear about inflation going up, folks, I'm trying to educate you as to what's going on about you. When you hear about inflation going up, you need to be concerned. Those of you that can remember, riding the subway used to be a quarter, even a dime. When I came to the country, we could have gotten on the subway with a dime. What can you get on today for a dime? That's inflation. You understand where I'm coming from? The value of that money goes down with the Fed continuing to print and the government continuing to borrow, which is really artificial demand. You are driving the value of the dollar down, and eventually that price will have to be paid. That being the case, you want to look at cryptos, NFTs, and real estate. Cryptos, because there is no centralized authority at all with cryptocurrency. No one person owns the ability to make it go up or go down. No organization does that. So you want to start looking at contributing some of your capital to cryptos so that you are not under the thumb of someone who's manipulating the currency.
Thank you. My question to you is that Eric Adams say he want to get his pay in crypto dollars?
And cryptocurrency?
What he said, I'm not quite sure what he wants his PA in, but it sounds like cryptocurrency. What is it, really?
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna tell you about that in a second. Could I get the elder to walk around with people after? Oh, you got it? Thanks. Yeah, she's asking, Eric Adams, your new mayor, is saying that he wants to get paid in crypto. And what is crypto? Crypto is a digital currency. You actually have to use a technology called blockchain. Don't worry about the technology. Just know that that technology is nearly impenetrable. You can't really hack in and counterfeit anything when you use the blockchain, at least not yet. And what it does is that just like back in the 1850s, where people went out west and they had to dig in the ground in order to mine for gold and silver and so forth, well, it's the same concept digitally. You are digging into neural networks, into computer networks, trying to find different chains of information that come together to form a Bitcoin or a Dogecoin or whatever the coin might be, and so forth. And that's where the value comes from, that millions of people are coming together to try to find this one thing, and when they do find it, the value is in what is transacted between the two people. And today, the marketplace is saying, we value cryptocurrency. I want y'all to get that. Money has no value of itself. That $10 bill and $20 bill, that has no value whatsoever of itself. It only has value so far as you and I agree. Think about it. If I pulled out $5 in Monopoly money right now, and all of you would beat down the pews just to get to me, to get to that $5 in Monopoly money, that says we agree that Monopoly money has value. The only reason why the $1 bill or the $5 bill today has value is because we agree that it has value. I give you $5, you give me a loaf of bread. But you can flip the script easily and say that I give you this laser pointer, and you give me a loaf of bread. That becomes the currency. Y'all understand? In the old days, salt was a form of currency. Did y'all know that? Yeah, salt. So currency only has value as it is between two people. So today, society is saying that the blockchain, which is, the top left-hand corner, cryptocurrency, it has value. And because it has value and there's no centralized authority, it makes it less susceptible to central banks trying to manipulate it up or down. That's why I encourage you, look into it. I'm not saying to invest all your money in it. I'm saying you need to look into it in the eventuality that indeed the dollar and all the other world currencies start going the way of the dodo. The other is real estate. If no one told you, they're not making any more. There's not another earth out there that we can actually go and colonize. You all are aware of that, right? Yeah, everything that we know is right here. That inherently means real estate is going to be valued. And if you can actually grab a piece of it and hold on to it, eventually somebody is going to say, I want what you have. God willing, they're not doing it to the point of a gun to your head, but they're doing it to the point of exchanging their goods for your land. They're taking it away from you? Could you say?
Oh, sorry. I'm saying that they're doing it overseas right now where I'm from, because if you have prime estate like in the rich area, they want it. They want that. And
so long as they're not putting some weapon to your head or trying to force you, you want that. You want people valuing your stuff to that high degree.
Yes,
because that means you now have currency to trade with.
Yeah.
So real estate, put some of your capital toward real estate. And the very last one is gold. Why gold? Folks, ever since the dawn of man, we have valued gold. And here's a secret for you. Even when we get to heaven, gold is going to be valuable there too. You understand where I'm coming from here? So put some of your capital toward gold. Again, I'm not saying put everything. I'm saying look at putting something, because when all these other forms, which are dollar denominated, All the other things up there are dollar denominated. If and when they fail, you're going to want to have something to fall back on, something to sustain you. I'm recommending look at crypto, look at real estate, look at gold. Fair enough? Oh, not a gold chain. I'm talking actual physical gold. And I do mean physical gold, like gold bullion, gold coins, something that is actual. A gold chain, you actually will have to go to like a shop for them to actually value that, because some of it is gold and some of it is copper or whatever, right? Yeah. So I don't want you to go through that hassle. I want you to have the real deal so that you can actually trade if the time comes. All right? So, some are too immature to delay pleasure for a greater result. I call that baby money. Some are too undisciplined that they work for money which has no job and no purpose, and thus money becomes lazy. Let me say that again. Money that has no job and no purpose is lazy money, and lazy money gets wasted. Money that has a job says that it is going to do something. Money that has a purpose says, I am getting ready for something. And if your money does not have a job or a purpose, it is lazy money. And lazy money will get wasted. 3 buckets: things that are consumed, things that depreciate, things that appreciate, and lazy money. Money that might go into any one of those 3 buckets, but has no job and it has no purpose. It will get wasted. Well, Lyndon, how could my money be lazy if I put it into investments and it keeps going up and up and up? There's this thing called taxes. Are you all aware of that thing? No, surely you're not. You live in one of the lowest tax municipalities in the U.S., right? I mean, they only tax you, what, 9% on sales, right? Yeah. They tax you when you buy the house. They tax you when you sell the house. Huh? Tax you when you get your money. Tax you when you give it to somebody else. Tax, 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 tax. If you put your money even in investments and you're not cognizant of taxes, it's going to get wasted by taxes. Money that has no job and no purpose is lazy money. Lazy money will get wasted. So you need to be the boss of your money and give it a job, like pay for my gas. Tell your money, pay off my mortgage. Or better yet, get me another car ASAP. Take care of tuition, room, and board. Decorate my home and garden. Why not? Fetch, just like you say to the dog, fetch me some dinner. Tell your money to fetch you some dinner. And of course, take you on vacation. Those are jobs that you have that your money can do if you take the initiative to be the boss and tell your money what to do instead of it laying around being lazy. Be the boss of your money. Tell it what job it has and make sure it does it. Because we have a saying, you cannot stop working for your money until your money starts working for you. Slide. You can't stop working for that money, folks, until it starts working for you. So, we educate against baby money, enter, and we militate against lazy money. We tell lazy money, it's your job. Get up. Get to work. So remember I said that there were 3 buckets? Well, I kind of lied. Yeah, there's a 4th bucket. No, it's a 4th bucket. It's an invisible bucket that contains eternal values. Eternal values like education and arts and literature, local and world charities, a character of love. Eternal values. God has entrusted you with money to put into this bucket that never can be filled up and can never be emptied. Think about that. Never can you fill this bucket. Never can you empty it. Because it continues to give and give and give, and it continues to get and get and get. So in summary, at the corner of questions and answers, do you see yourself going one way, your own way, or the way that leads to the fulfillment of your goals? Do you see yourself as the boss of your money where money is your servant? Or is your money working for you? Is your money spending an inordinate amount of time in buckets number 1 and buckets number 2? Have you made any provisions whatsoever for bucket number 3? So again, as we come to the end and about to take questions, do you see a fantasy? Things as you hope them to be? Or do you see things as reality and how they are going to continue to be? In either case, folks, I'm here to help so that you can have what God has entrusted to you work for Him and work for you. I want to read you one last quote, and thank you for that. One last quote. It says, "No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. You are the boss of your money, and if you do not give it proper employment, it will leave you and go to work for another employer, maybe even me. In this life story where you're the boss, there are two main characters involved in fulfilling your drive for greater, better, cleaner air supply. You and no one else. No one else is going to or can make you act like the boss of your money. No one else is going to make your money follow orders you keep locked up in your head or too disconnected or distracted to articulate. No one else is going to engage in planning for your financial future. No one else will implement the plan. No one else can employ the discipline to stay on track when circumstances challenge you and troubles arise. No one else can move you from being a bystander to being a prudent participant in money production. No one else is going to provide for you what you have the responsibility and power to provide for yourself. If they do, then you are in a state of dependency or bondage. How do you like the air in those chambers? No one else is going to absorb the education or display your human capital. No one else is going to apply the principles of sharpening the saw. No one else can do what you, a unique individual created for purpose, can do. If it's not you, it's no one else, and no one is coming to save you. That's all. Ready for questions? Ready for questions if you have any.
Can you explain bonds?
Bonds?
You spoke about bonds.
Bonds.
And there was a talk show program.
Sorry, after the bonds you said what?
There was a talk show, Susie Arnon.
Suze Orman,
Yes, he was telling us about bonds and what have you, but
Yep.
I don't quite get it.
Yep. So she's asking about bonds. Bonds are a loan that you make to someone. It could be to a government, like the United States government. It can be to a municipality, like if they wanted to build a new Yankee Stadium. You know, the city of New York takes out bonds in order to get some of those projects started, along with the owners of Yankee Stadium, or the owners of the Yankees and so forth. Or you can loan it to a corporation. What you do is you give them $1,000, And what they say is, we will pay you back that $1,000 over 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is. And every 6 months or so, we're going to give you some interest as a means of thanking you for allowing us to hold on to your money for this period of time. So a bond is a loan to an entity. And as a bond holder, you have first claim if they default. What that means is, if they don't pay you back on time and you end up in court, you get first rights at getting whatever's left in that entity. So a bond is a loan where you have the rights of actually getting your money or some of your money back if things go bad. What else? Yes.
You have to be a special age to have umbrella insurance. Have you ever heard about umbrella insurance?
Until tonight. Could you repeat it for the people online? Could you? The mic.
I'd like to know if you have to be a special age or in a special to get umbrella insurance. What you get umbrella insurance for?
Mm-hmm.
And at what age, or the oldest or the youngest you could get that?
Okay. The youngest that you typically can get umbrella insurance is 18, because most, if not all, insurance contracts have to be executed between legal adults. They're not allowed to enter into contracts with minors. So the low age is 18, have to be 18. There is no upper limit for umbrella insurance. Anyone can qualify for umbrella insurance, because again, it's not on your life. It's on you and it's on you and your lifestyle, I should say. So that if anything happens, for instance, maybe not you, Tantieri, but many of these young people, they're on Instagram and TikTok, and they're writing different things. And if somebody just gets mad and says, well, I'm going to sue you because you said something that caused me to lose my job, that act would be covered under umbrella insurance. Because now, again, instead of them taking your car and your house, the umbrella insurance policy would be there to guard against them suing you for libel or whatever charge they bring against you. So there's no upper age. It's insuring against your lifestyle, not against your life. Mm-hmm. What else you got? Going once. Going twice. Well, all righty then. So what I'm going to say is, it has really been a pleasure to spend the time here with you today and sharing the information. Enjoyed the back and forth and the conversations and even information that I was provided today.
Wait, before you continue.
There's a question up top, sorry.
Yes. I'm about the real estate.
Mm-hmm. About real estate.
Yeah, okay, so how we're making money on real estate, on your home, if it's paid off, but you're just paying taxes?
How do you make money on real estate on your home, especially if it's paid off and all you're doing is paying taxes? There are multiple ways that you can actually make money on your home. The first and foremost is if you actually turn your home into some kind of business enterprise. You know, there's this small little company that I've heard of recently, something B&B. Yeah. Right? You can actually rent out space in your home to others and make your home work for you. That's one way. Another way that you can actually make money off of real estate is if you actually strategically look and plan. What do I mean by that? If you look at some of the places where the population is growing the fastest, it tends to be south and it tends to be west. So if you took that knowledge and decided, you know what, I'm going to buy me some land around Nashville, Tennessee. Not too close to Nashville, but not too far away either. And I'm going to hold on to it for 20 years because you see that people are moving south and west and in that Nashville area. Just like Bed-Stuy looks nothing like what I knew growing up. It is also true about other areas. And if you have the vision to see that, you can purchase just the land, not a building, not anything else, just the land. When I was at IBM, there was a young man from the Virgin Islands. His name was Solomon, no less. And he actually bought, I think it was 100 or 200 acres in northern Florida near Gainesville. And he bought it just to say he had some property in Florida. Well, lo and behold, University of Florida, Gainesville said, we want to expand and we want your land to expand. What this man paid truly a couple $1,000s for, he was able to sell to the University of Florida for hundreds of thousands of dollars back in the 1980s. All because he saw that there's something about this area that I just need to get me some land. So that's a second way. If you see where the population trends are going, you just buy the real estate and then you wait. A third way is exactly the same thing. You buy the real estate, but then you build. And you build at your cost. Your cost might be $100,000 or $200,000. Folks, when people are selling you homes for $600,000, $700,000, and $800,000, don't be fooled into thinking, well, it must have cost them $500,000 or $600,000. It does not cost them that much. So you can actually buy and build and sell. Or you can buy and build and rent. But I will never, ever be a landlord in New York City. Sorry. I will not do that. The laws in New York City allows people to be a deadbeat in your space for up to a year and a half. I've got somebody living in my place, trashing my place, and I can't get them out because the law says that they gotta stay there? What? I ain't doing that. I want to be someplace where you're not paying me. Yes, I will show you mercy by not throwing you directly out on the street. I will call the sheriff for him to do that. Not in New York for me, sorry. Let me tell you something on that speed too, by the way. And I know it's late, so it's not like this is going to be a long story. I grew up here, and I didn't think there was life outside of New York. I am now in my 50s, and mind you, as a young kid, they would talk about, Ellen White says, go to the country, buy a home in the country, get away from the city, live off the land and so forth. And I'm like, these people are nuts. These people have lost it. There is nothing but life right here in New York, so nice they named it twice. I am now in my 50s, and I'm looking for land in the country where I can live off the land. Do you know why? And I don't know why I didn't say this earlier. Over 100 years ago in the 1920s, 80% of the people worked for themselves. They were their own managers. Today, 88% of the U.S. works for someone else. 100 years ago, you were the boss. Today, someone else is the boss. And what happens when someone else is the boss? They can tell you, go get something in your body. I ain't gonna call it a vaccine. I'm gonna call it something in your body. Your body. If you don't, you lose your job. When you're the boss, no one can tell you that because you're working for you. You make up the rule. When you're the boss, no one says, the next time you walk in here late, I don't care if you have 3 children you have to take care of. You're fired. When you're the boss, no one can tell you that. Stop living like the tail. God said He made us the head and not the tail. Stop living like the tail. Look to do for yourself. And when you're able to do that, you know what you can do? You can be the boss of other people. You can now hire other people. So when I am now in my 50s thinking about that, I'm thinking about that for 3 main reasons. I don't want anyone telling me what to do in order to keep a job. I don't want that. And if you all stop and think about how ridiculous that is, we make excuses for that, by the way. We make excuses. But the truth is, if they told you to sacrifice your firstborn, you would say no. I hope you would. Because they're stepping on a right that's not theirs, but they tell you to do something else, stay late and miss your kid's baseball game or basketball game, and, oh, I need the job. What kind of madness is that? What you need is faith. Faith to tell them, God called me to take care of my home first. I'm not staying late, otherwise I lose my job. I'm going to trust what God told me to do about my home. I don't want anyone telling me what to do with a job. I don't want anyone telling me I can't enter the store to buy food. Think about that, folks. They kept you out of the grocery store if you didn't do what they said. They can't do that if you're growing it yourself. And the third, energy independence. At any point in time, they can take these lights off, can't they? Right? Any point in time, they can turn off the water, right? That's right. But if you're living out in the country where you're making your own food and you're generating your own power, no one can come and interrupt your life unless they straight up hate you and they're going to confiscate your property by force. And we know that day is coming. So, folks, I'm not saying that this is a cure-all for everything. I'm saying until Jesus comes and until that time comes, we should endeavor to do what we were told from kids, get out of the city. And I know it's not easy, but we should endeavor to do that and be self-sufficient. Own food, own energy, own finances, not depending on someone else. So did that help with the real estate? All right. So, folks, the sign-up sheet is out there right now. There was only one person on there, and if it's only one, I'm just going to call that person on the phone. There are two now that are on there. Are they close in time? Beautiful. So there's still room for others. Melvin has that sheet, so let's see if we can fill it up, and please try to fill it up close in time. I'd hate to get here at 8 and then have to wait 2 hours for, someone else. All right. Thank you again, and I believe you're going to dismiss us? All right. Thank you again.
All right, before we go, just want to make an observation regarding, give a big hand again for Lyndon's presentation. I'll make this comment that made by President Obama about debt. You want to hear it? Obama became the leader of the free world, but he didn't grow up rich. He and his wife, Michelle, both had to take out loans to fund their educations. And they were paid off in 2005, his loans were. The president, he said, Michelle and I were only where we are not because we had scholarships and we had loans. He said that they paid off their loans in 2005. Student loans. Isn't that something? Right. All right, then. So this thing, debt is real, right? Let's stand, please. We're going to sing a song, Now the Day is Over. Elder Niles, come down front, please. Elder Niles said you're going to. Elder Niles? Together. Now the day is over. Night now. Night is drawing nigh. Shadows of the ye. Can y'all sing? I can't sing. Still across the sky. Father now. Father, give the weary strong and sweet repose. No, Elder, now let's have prayer, please. They're not. Let's have prayer. They don't know. They go say prayer, okay? You want another stanza? A who? That they said close out. Well, you say, I was trying to sing it out. Y'all, you didn't get my tune. All right, one more, okay. Now y'all want the West Indian tune, right? West Indian tune? Here's the American tune. Now the day is over. night is drawing nigh, shadows of the evening still across the sky. Father, now come on. Father, give the weary, strong now, strong and sweet repose. Come on, y'all. Elder Niles, hold the prayer, please. This ain't going no place, man, you know. Elder Cameron. Yeah, it's over. It's over. The day is over. It's over, yeah. And that, it's over, yeah. Across the sky, through the long. Look, y'all. With thy tenderest blessings, with thy tenderest blessings, our eyelids closed, may our eyelids go through the long night walk. Thine angel now, may thine angel spread their white wings round my bed, watching round my bed. Elder Niles, let's bow for prayer. Elder Niles, I'm going to pray, okay? We both pray, okay? I pray, and you pray. Father God, you God that loves, Father, your children, Father, in a special way as your children that you died for. But we're not going to face a brand new week, Lord. Help us keep our eyes on Christ this week. Keep our eyes on the Savior. We do pray. Christ, we ask it all. Forgive us our sins. We do ask of thee. Amen.
Eternal Father and our God, we thank you for the time that we have spent in your presence. We thank you for the blessings of the day, for the knowledge that we have gained during this day also. We ask that you will be with the Brother Lyndon. Your blessing, bless his family, that is, he will continue to spread and to teach others about finances. We pray, dear God, that we will adhere to his teachings. We ask that you be with us, grant us traveling mercies as we leave this place. Take us home safely, we pray, and bring us back into your house of worship, where we continue to learn and to receive your blessings. In Jesus' name we pray and for his sake. Amen.
That the words of our mouths,
And the meditation
of our hearts,
be
acceptable in thy sight. O Lord, our strength and our redeemer. Amen. Now the day is over. Can we say amen again? Sister, who's that singing about? Raise your hand, my dear. All right. What they call American Idol? Jamaican Idol. Jamaican Idol.